Well, today's cooking project is going to be a cheesecake, which I've been dying to do for y'all. It's going to be a Lindy's New York style cheesecake. And the thing that makes it a New York style cheesecake is the amount of cream cheese in it, and also the amount of eggs. Makes it a very rich cheesecake. And so I got the recipe for this from my mother, who used to work at Lindy's restaurant in Manhattan. Lindy's was I think from 1921, and they closed in 1961, and my mother worked there for about 6 months in 1946. So I've been really dying to make this for you. So let's get started. We're going to be using my mother's springform pan that she bequeathed upon me when she handed me the recipe. I don't really recall my mother making this recipe. She just handed me the recipe to make. And I've made somewhere, I really don't know exactly how many. I've made between 50 and 100 of these things. But this was her springform pan that she gave me. And this is quite an antique. I don't know how far back it goes, but she gave this to me at the same time. The first step to make the cheesecake would be to make the biscuit style crust, which is the more authentic crust, as opposed to a graham cracker crust. I do not make graham cracker crusts for anything, especially cheesecake. There's two reasons. One is that graham crackers are made out of bioengineered products, and number two, it's just not authentic. Having said that, the style crust that I make is a pain in the neck to make. It's a real pain in the neck. But I only make 2 of these cheesecakes at the most a year. So I just enjoy the process. And since we have a nice rainy day today, I'm just going to enjoy making the cheesecake. And we'll make the authentic biscuit style crust. To get started, we're going to put 1 cup of flour, AP flour if you will, in our mixing bowl. A 1/4 cup of sugar in the mixing bowl. We're going to do 1 teaspoon of grated lemon peel. Not the zest, the peel. The peel is this outside portion. The zest is the inner portion. That's about a teaspoon's worth. That'll go in. We need a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Very good. And then we need 1 egg yolk. And a 1/4 cup of soft butter. Tell you something about soft butter. You want to make sure that it's nice and soft, not melted, just nice and soft. And the other thing you want to have soft, or rather at room temperature at least, is your cream cheese that we're going to use later. But we'll talk about that then. So into this whole batch, we're going to take our hand and mix it all up. The only thing I have to do to it now is I'm going to wrap it up in parchment paper and put it in the refrigerator for an hour. The first step you want to do is you want to grease the bottom of your 9-inch springform pan, the bottom and the sides. This springform pan I got from my mother, who actually worked at Lindy's restaurant in New York City, which is where this style of cheesecake was originated. And that's where she got the recipe. So we're gonna take a portion of this dough and roll it out and put it in the bottom of the pan. I want to thank Linda, our friend Linda down the street, for giving us this wonderful rolling pin. It's a wonderful tool to work with. Thank you, Linda, if you're watching. Okay, so the bottom of the cheesecake here will get baked now in the oven at about 400 degrees for about 8 to 10 minutes. Now we'll go ahead and assemble our springform pan. Try not to get burned because that bottom sheet is pretty hot. The springform pan walls are about 2¼ inches wide, So that's what we're going to try to make these strips at. This is probably the most frustrating part of making this cheesecake. Making these strips. Because it's just a process of rolling it out and then squishing things back together like that. And rolling it out some more. Squishing it back together. This is the first strip. Their directions say to make them 10 inches long, but I've never been able to handle a 10-inch piece and get it in the springform pan. So I usually make them shorter. So then we just grab our little strip pieces that we make. I usually put them in one at a time. They're very fragile. They want to fall apart, and they will fall apart. So when they fall apart on you, don't feel bad. And I'm going to tell you something about that in a second. I just kind of lay it in there, and when pieces fall off, I just kind of press them back together. This is why nobody makes this kind of a crust. Well, if they knew about it anyway. I don't think many people know about this kind of crust. Our crust is finished. It's all inserted. We rolled it all out and put it in. We've got 5 bricks of cream cheese in our mixing bowl with the whisk attachment. Let's get that going first. Into that we'll put our sugar, 1 3/4 cup, but we don't usually put in as much as they ask for. That's way too much sugar. The recipe calls for 1 3/4 cup though. And we'll get that blending in. 3 tables of flour. 1½ teaspoons of lemon peel, grated. 1½ teaspoons of orange peel, grated. 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract. 5 whole eggs, 1 at a time. There's number 1. Number 2. By the way, this is what makes it a New York style cheesecake, is the amount of cream cheese, 5 whole bricks, and the number of eggs, a total of 9 altogether. Number 3. Number 4. Number 5. And 2 egg yolks. There's 1. And here's the second egg yolk. And then 1/4 cup of heavy cream. And that's it. I like to stop partway through and give it a nice little scrape down. Alright, I'm going to pronounce it done. Time to put the filling in the springform pan. Here's cookies that I made with the leftover crust. We'll have that at tea time. Do you want me to hold something?
No, I think it's okay.
Okay.
I'm wondering if it'll all fit.
It will.
Ooh.
Just a word about baking cheesecakes. There's a lot of angst on YouTube about getting a crack in the top of your cheesecake. I myself don't think it's a big deal. because we're going to be putting a topping on it anyway, and that'll cover any crack. Having said that, we don't get cracks on our cheesecake, and I can tell you why in a second. Now, a lot of the people on YouTube, Martha Stewart is one, John Cannell, Brian Lagerstrom, they always bake their cheesecakes in a water bath. They put tin foil around the cheesecake springform pan, put it in a water bath, and they feel as though that helps. I bought this tin to do that with, but you know something? I've never done that. I've never used it because we just never have a problem. Okay, got our 500 degrees on the thermometer, so in goes the cheesecake for the first shift. It's going in for 10 minutes at 500. After 5, we'll turn it around, and then we have to lower the temperature. I got cheesecake all over the door. I have to lower the temperature to 250, and then bake it for another hour. All right, there's the first 10 minutes at 500. Now we drop the oven door open, or open the oven door, and that's how we adjust the temperature. It's only a wood stove. We don't really have electronic controls. It's not a smart oven, or whatever they're called. Our cheesecake has been in the refrigerator overnight. It's gotten nice and cold, and the whole thing did recede back inside. If you remember, when we took it out of the oven, it was kind of up, but it always does that, and then it goes back down in. So the next step is to make the cherry pie filling, or the cherry topping for the cheesecake. So to do that, the first thing we'll do is we'll take the ring off the springform pan. Got to be very careful. It should come right off. There we go. Look how beautiful that crust turned out. It turned out perfect. It always does. Even though we ended up putting the crust in the springform pan in little pieces, in little sections, the butter content helps to just meld the whole thing together. It's really beautiful. So now the next step is to make the topping. You can get frozen cherries. They work very well. In fact, I almost bought a bag. Or you can also get dried cherries in the raisin aisle of the supermarket. Dried cherries, you can reconstitute those, and they'll make for a good cherry topping. But what we did was we bought 2 cans of the pie filling because we had 2 cheesecakes to make that we were not going to be eating. They were going to go to other people, and cherry pie filling is fine if you don't mind eating high fructose corn syrup, because that's what's mostly in it. But what I do is, if I have to use the pie filling, I wash the cherries off. I get rid of the high fructose corn syrup, and it leaves us with just a bowl of cherries. All right, we're going to bring this to a boil, and we're going to boil it for about 1 minute. It's thickening up nicely. So we'll just kind of simmer this thing for about anywhere from 1 to 5 minutes. The idea is that we want the mixture, or we want this broth to get to thicken up a little bit. And then we'll just stir that in to mix. Yep. Oh, it looks beautiful, doesn't it? Now, optionally, you can put some red food coloring in there. But we don't do that because one of the reasons why we make this stuff from scratch is so we can get away from artificial colorings and artificial flavorings. Our cherry topping has cooled slightly now, so it's time to put it on the cheesecake. I like to put it in the middle and then spread it around as I need to do. Another thing that they do in restaurants is they have the cherry topping off to the side in a different canister. They'll cut you your cheesecake and put it on the dish, and then they will apply the topping. They'll drizzle it over top of your piece of cheesecake. That's an elegant look. But just for the homestead, this is what we do.